The moment my mother shoved the contract across the dining table, her eyes were cold, calculated, and completely devoid of love. "Sign over your trust fund, Clara, or we will tell your firm's partners you stole from the family estate." My sister, Vanessa, sat beside her, admiring a 2-carat diamond ring and whining that a $45,000 destination wedding in Tuscany was the bare minimum she deserved. For years, I was the quiet daughter, the workhorse who sacrificed her youth to build a successful consulting business, while Vanessa blew through every dime our parents ever had. But demanding I bankrupt my entire savings to finance her luxury circus was where I drew the line. When I refused, they threatened to obliterate my career and paint me as an ungrateful thief to everyone we knew. They thought fear would break me. They had no idea I was recording every single word. Welcome back to BT Revenge Tales, where greed meets justice and toxic families face ultimate consequences. My name is Clara. At 32 years old, I had spent my entire life playing the invisible workhorse in the Sterling household. My younger sister, Vanessa, was 4 years younger, exceptionally charming, and treated like royalty. While our parents, Arthur and Evelyn, handed her credit cards for shopping sprees and financed her failed boutique ventures, I was expected to earn every single penny. I spent my 20s working 80-hour weeks to build a successful corporate accounting consultancy from the ground up. I bought my own townhome, invested prudently, and kept a low profile. Vanessa, on the other hand, lived as an influencer with zero income and mountain-high credit debt that our parents quietly bailed out using their dwindling retirement funds. Then came the announcement. Vanessa got engaged to Julian, a man she had known for 3 months who claimed to be a high-flying venture capitalist. The moment the ring was on her finger, their eyes locked onto my bank accounts, setting the stage for a vicious, entitled demand. The summons came on a Tuesday under the guise of an intimate family dinner at a high-end downtown steakhouse. The moment the appetizers arrived, my mother pulled a color-coded spreadsheet from her designer purse and slid it directly across my plate. It outlined a grand $45,000 destination wedding at a historic villa in Tuscany, complete with chartered flights, custom couture gowns, and 5-star accommodations. At the bottom, in bold red ink, the total balance was assigned entirely to me. When I calmly pushed the paper back and reminded them that I had my own mortgage to pay and that their demands were completely unreasonable, the table erupted. Vanessa burst into theatrical tears, wailing that I was a bitter, jealous spinster intent on ruining the most important day of her life. My father leaned over the table, his face flushed with anger, whispering that as the older sister with a thriving business, it was my duty to make Vanessa look exceptional in front of high society. I held my ground and refused. The tension followed us straight back to my parents' living room behind tightly shut doors. My mother marched straight to Arthur's study and returned with a freshly printed legal contract, dropping a heavy silver pen beside it. The document proposed transferring the equity from my commercial office property directly into a joint account under Vanessa's name to fully fund the Italian wedding. When I scoffed and pushed the pen away, my father's demeanor turned menacingly cold. He stepped between me and the front door, leaning in close. "You think you have a choice, Clara," he hissed. "You sign this right now, or your mother and I will contact your biggest corporate clients and tell them you embezzled funds from our family estate to start your firm. We will drag your name through the mud until you lose every contract." Vanessa smirked from the velvet sofa, crossing her arms in triumph. Keeping my breathing perfectly steady, I reached beneath my sleeve, discreetly activated the voice recorder on my smartwatch, and let them repeat every single threat. I forced a trembling breath, looked up at my father, and asked for 48 hours to review the document with my personal accountant before signing. Believing their coercion had broken me, Arthur smugly agreed, convinced the victory was already theirs. The moment I walked out of that house, I did not panic. I went on the offensive. As a forensic accountant, finding the hidden truth behind numbers was my specialty, but to ensure completely unbiased documentation, I hired an independent private investigator. Within 24 hours, the files landed on my desk, and the findings were staggering. My parents were completely broke. Arthur had lost our family home to a high-risk reverse mortgage, desperately needing my money to preserve their elite social status. Even worse, Vanessa's glamorous fiancé, Julian, was an unemployed fraud drowning in personal loan defaults, hunting for an heiress to rescue him. I immediately met with my corporate defense attorney, registered protective affidavits against extortion, and laid the groundwork for an undeniable public trap. 2 days later, my parents hosted Vanessa's black tie engagement cocktail party at an upscale country club ballroom, surrounded by 60 of our wealthiest family friends, clients, and extended relatives. My father stood near the center stage with a triumphant grin, clutching the microphone to publicly announce my generous gift before I could object. Before he could utter a word, I stepped toward the AV technician, quietly loaded a presentation flash drive, and took the podium under the guise of an honoring tribute. The room went dark, the overhead projector lit up, and crystal-clear audio filled every corner of the hall. It was Arthur and Evelyn's voices, unmistakable and venomous, spelling out their entire blackmail scheme to ruin my business unless I surrendered my life savings for Vanessa's wedding. As the audio finished, high-resolution scans of the coercive contract, Arthur's severe mortgage defaults, and Julian's active collection notices illuminated the screen. A suffocating, dead silence fell over the ballroom as every single guest stared in horror at my pale parents. The fallout was instantaneous and explosive. Several influential relatives stood up from their tables in disgust, rescinding their financial gifts and walking out into the night. Julian took one look at the projector displaying his documented debt defaults, turned on his heel without saying a single word to my sister, and fled the country club lobby. Realizing her faux millionaire fiancé had abandoned her and that her grand European fantasy was gone forever, Vanessa collapsed onto the carpet in a fit of hysterical screams. My mother rushed toward the stage shouting threats, but my legal counsel stepped forward, handing both Arthur and Evelyn official cease and desist notices backed by notarized police reports for attempted felony extortion. The entire high society facade they had spent decades building shattered completely in under 5 minutes. My father tried to approach me with hollow, desperate excuses, but there was nothing left to salvage. I calmly turned my back on the wreckage, walked out to my car, and drove home in utter, unshakable peace. The aftermath dismantled whatever vanity remained of my family. Within 3 months, Arthur and Evelyn were forced to sell our childhood home to settle mounting tax liens, relocating to a modest 2-bedroom rental on the edge of the city. Their former high society circle vanished overnight. Vanessa, buried beneath thousands in non-refundable designer dress deposits and international venue cancellations she had placed on her own credit cards, had to pick up double shifts in retail management just to stay afloat. I changed my contact numbers, redirected all family inquiries through my legal team, and established absolute, permanent no-contact boundaries. My consulting firm continued to expand, reaching record profitability without toxic leeches draining my peace of mind. Standing in the sunlit living room of my own home, looking out at the city skyline, I finally felt completely untethered from the guilt they spent 32 years trying to trap me in. True family never demands that you destroy yourself to fund their superficial illusions, and walking away remains the best investment I ever made.